Okay, so here we go. Gonna do a rebuild on the Hellcat engine. The plan is to get this thing torn down and completely disassembled so I can put some new parts into it. So we're hanging out here in the old piston broke pig barn out at the acreage. I've got all my broken machines. I got my little shop helper here. And what's going to be going on is I'm going to dive into this thing here, try and get it completely torn down, get the heads off of it, get the pistons out of it. Initially, it is a boosted turbo engine. I put a Brown's Leisure Works turbo system in the machine, and now it came with a head shim. I put the head shim in it to drop the compression because the motor is a factory Wildcat X engine, which has higher compression. So we're going to get that all yarded out. I'm going to pull the heads, everything off, get rid of that shim, put some low compression pistons in it, make sure everything's good, and yeah, we'll go from there. So here we go. I'm going to have to go ahead and take the head bolts out. What I need to do first though is I need to take these cam guides, cam locks out so I can get the cams out of the engine. But first things first, I got to take the front cover off to expose the primary so that I'm able to turn the crank in order to gain access to everything. Alright, so I've got the cam cover, or the belt cover off, able to move the crank so I can access the cam bolts. I've got those taken off already. So what I need to do now is I need to take the chain tensioner. There's still a lot of tension on this chain, so I need to loosen this bolt off to release tension on either side, and then I can pull the cover off for the cams, and then I'll be able to remove the chain and then remove the cam itself. Now that I've got the cam cover and the retainer out, I have to go ahead and I have to get this pin out to get the gear off of the cam, and then I'll be able to pull the chain off and then pull the cam out. Remove the gear from that, and then we can remove the chain from the gear. Carefully, not to lose anything inside the motor. So get the chain off the gear. Oh, okay, I can still get that. And yeah, so then that little gear just slides in there and prevents the gear from turning on the cam. We're good to go. So like I did with the other side, I'll put the retainer back on there just to keep everything, keep from losing anything. Well, we got the rear head pulled off. And then we got the valve set here. So what we'll do before we do anything else, once I get the other side pulled off and start going from there, I'll take this bottom pot off so then we can get at the piston itself. And then I've got a buddy coming out, he's lending me his spring compressing tool system, and yeah, we'll go from there. But the cylinder walls and everything look really good, so I'm happy with that. Obviously running a little rich, but what do you do? Well, head number 2 is removed. Now it's just a matter of removing these guys here, and the pot will come off. Alright, so we've got the pot undone here. I've got this pot off. Piston is ready to come out. So all I've got to do now is remove this little cotter pin, knock out the wrist pin towards me, and then I'll drop in the new piston. Got the new one sitting here. ready to go in, new wrist pin, all the rings and everything is already installed, so that's good. So it's just a matter of now knocking this guy out, and we will start getting ready for a bit more boost. Right, Hopita? She's deaf. Completely deaf. Piston is out. So we've got it sitting here and we've got it sitting next to the new one. Now the only noticeable difference, just because of the fact that this is an OEM replacement, but it's for a 13 non-X model. This engine is an X model, so the only difference is with the X is you've got more compression, and this raised section on the piston here is the only discernible difference. It's everything else otherwise is exactly the same. So I've got the lock pin taken out. Now I'm just going to pop this guy back in, the new one in, and we'll start putting the pot and head back on it. And just like that, new piston is in place. Cylinder pot is back in, and I got to give a shout out to my buddy Josh. He helped me out in a big way, lending me his brand new ring compressor kit. Gotta say, was a lifesaver. Wouldn't have been able to do it without him. For real though. And yeah, now it's just a matter of popping off the other side, knocking the old one out, putting the new piston in, and we'll start doing some reassembly. I do apologize, the little GoPro battery went dead, so pretty tough to try and do this with holding the camera and maneuvering everything else, but do my best. Well, there we go. Got the front cylinder done. Got the rear cylinder done. Just a matter of putting the heads on, bolting everything down, head gaskets, that kind of good stuff. I don't have any gasket maker or a torque wrench here at the shop, so I'm just going to kind of button it up for now. But other than that, we're basically styling. The Hellcat engine, it's been reborn. I just want to give a special thanks to all you guys that have been supporting me over the years. We recently just hit a milestone of 600 subscribers. A stable milestone. I was fluctuating up and down quite a bit. Apparently a lot of guys or a lot of people don't really care for old Pisty too much, so well, fuck them. But I appreciate every one of you guys for tuning in, watching and supporting me, and cheers to the next one. Here we are, day 2. Just went ahead and torqued down the head studs or head bolts to 20, to 30, and then to 37 foot-pounds. And I tell you, it's strenuous. That last little bit, you always think that they're coming loose on you, but we got those done. So now I'm going to go ahead and pull the sight cover off the stator cover so I can find the top dead center of the piston, and I'll get the cam in the front cylinder, get that set, and we'll go from there. Just installing the cam itself temporarily without the gear, so I can freely turn the motor and not worry about the chains falling into the case. It's the front. So just back it up just a touch, just by turning the primary. And that is in line. We have the timing chain and gears into place. Now everything's kind of mounted up, and I'm just going to use my finger as tension. You want that line level with your head, and that's level there. We'll come around to this side. Well, no, I got to turn it. So right now it's on top dead center front. So what we'll do is we'll move the primary to get to the rear. front. Rear. That line is lined up with that line. We're level there. A little tension on the chain. That's about as good as we're gonna get. Yep. So now it's just a matter of me going through, putting the retainer clips in, then I'll put the valve covers back on it, then I'll set the valves, set the exhaust and the intake on both cylinders, and basically it should be good to go. I'll put the intake and all that kind of good stuff back on it. I do have to put coil in this guy right there. I ended up stripping out on the trail, and unfortunately it started leaking oil, wrecked the gasket that goes around the shift selector fork, whatever. So yeah, that's basically it here now. It's just a matter of final assembly. Alrighty, so it has been a while since I've done much on the old Hellcat. I've ran into quite a few problems after I got the motor all put back together and that sort of thing. Put the cams, all that kind of good stuff in. Set the motor in, and I ended up breaking the stub shaft out of the transmission to the motor. So what happened, being the fucking meathead that I am, instead of being smart and lowering the motor down, I decided to jack up a little bit more on the engine hoist and ended up snapping that off inside the rear differential, which caused me a bit of issues. So then I tore the diff apart. I had to pull it out of the machine. As you can see, there's still no rear diff in the Wildcat. I noticed that there was some exceptionally black substance coming out of the output. Decided that wasn't a good deal, so I pulled the rear diff out, and it was completely there wasn't what you would call oil inside the engine. So I've got the diff here. I yarded it all out, took it apart, cleaned it. It's a lot better now. Everything's in good condition here now. It was full of mud. I think my little Venturi valve has a hole in it, which caused water to get in, water and mud, and that's not necessarily a good deal. I had to take the stub shaft out of old blue, so I've got its diff right there, yarded out. So I took that out, so I'll probably end up just rebuilding that one as well. But from here, we've got on a progress. The motor itself is in. I've got the turbo and everything mounted back up. Radiator's in. I've got to change out the belt here yet, but that's not that big of a deal. Intercooler is placed back in, and you'll notice that there's no air box on the Wildcats. This is where the air box sits. I'm going to be pulling it out. I'm not going to run an air box. That there is the air inlet for the turbo. I'm actually going to duct right off of that and go straight up and out, and then I'm going to build a filtered air system right up top, so then I can have a lot more space there. I'll be able to put a belt blower and all that kind of good stuff in. So what I'm going to do is just try and dry fire it. I haven't done anything here yet. I've been messing with the transmission, the gear shift selector. That wasn't working. The gear shift cable itself, that was seized. So I had to pull the gear shift cable out of the blue one, put it in this one. I put the gear shift selector out of the blue one in this one. That wasn't working. Yarded that out, put the other one back in. Had to mess with adjustments for about a day and a half trying to get that sorted out. So we're going to give this a go. Hopefully we got good news. that works. It turns over, so that's a start. What I got to do, I'm going to finish buttoning up the fuel system here, get that set into place, and then put the exhaust so I can hook up the O2 sensor. And yeah, hopefully we'll have a running Wildcat here in the next little bit. Well, no go. Got the fuel system in, everything in, and unfortunately, once I started to go, that fuel pump, or sorry, injector hat, which I had initially broken when I put the other motor in. When I put the motor in, I broke it. Put another one in. It was still leaking. Figured out that just the injector wasn't seated properly. Got the injector seated properly. Went to start it again, and it's a one piston deal. So what has actually happened is the back cylinder is a standard cam, and then the front cylinder up here is a pressure relief cam. And when you install the cams, the lobes are supposed to be down when the piston's on top dead center. But I did it the last time with when I had put the turbo system on the machine. They're actually supposed to be on the front. They're supposed to be up because it's clocked 100 degrees off. And what it does is when it's not under load, the cam spins backwards and allows the machine to pressure relief, and it doesn't cause any issues. I fucking did it again, so I got to pull the top of the motor off. Shouldn't be that bad. It's just a few bolts. Undo the cam, clock at 180 degrees, retime it, and yeah, that's that. So, like I say, it's been a battle. It's been an absolute battle. Tiring, weeks and weeks and weeks on end. Every weekend that I can, when I'm not doing work stuff and family stuff, it's been a lot of time. So hopefully here now, I'll get that done in the next couple days, and yeah, well, we'll see where we go. Alrighty, stay tuned, I guess. Well, it's a new day. I was able to get some time off work, so I came home a little bit early and decided to jump on the diff, or the front cam on the motor. I was able to already swap it around. Being that this is a cam, or a pressure relief cam, it's clocked differently because it does pivot once there's pressure release. So I've got it all back into top dead center. Just tightening up the retainer clips here now. I've spun the cam already, so shouldn't be too much longer. Get the cam, everything tightened up, and then I'll clean up all the gasket sealer on the machine itself, on the head, and then on the valve cover, and we'll try and fire it again. Well, I'm fucking happy. Okay, so here we go. I've got the motor in, and I want to talk driveline. I've got the diff and everything put in. As you can see, I've got the entire rear suspension completely torn out, and that's because of this guy here. That shock, I bent it a few years ago, and I'd reached out to a few companies local, talked to them about possibly rebuilding or maybe getting a new one. A new one is like $1,700. They're from 2013. I decided I don't really want to necessarily go that route. And then with the driveline itself, ever since I put the big tires on it, ever since I put the 36s on it, I've obliterated absolutely everything. I've blown transmissions, I've blown diffs, I've blown axles, everything gets wrecked, and it's getting to the point now where I don't really know what to do with it. It's almost undrivable, so I thought about possibly selling the machine once I get it put back together, or there's one more option to try and alleviate driveline stress. So what I've got here now for the Hellcat is a pair of 6-inch portals with a 30% gear reduction. And then to replace the shocks, I'm getting rid of the old Fox, 11-year-old Fox shocks, and I'm going with stage 5 shocks on the machine. So that's going to be the new setup here. These will turn those 36s like it came factory with 28s. Then on top of it, with how I've redone the turbo system and everything inside the motor of this machine, it should be making a clean 150 horsepower. Granted, that's not Can MX3 or Player SS power, but for a machine that came with 90 stock to 150, weighing factory around 1,300 pounds, it's going to be a fucking rocket ship. I decided to go with the Elkas because of the fact that I want to be able to do absolutely everything with this machine. I don't want it just to be, like, no offense to the southern guys, just a straight mud bog, bounty hole kind of stuff. I'm going rocks, I'm going trails, I'm going everything. So I want it to flex, I want articulation. I will be removing some of the lift out of the machine to kind of bring my center of gravity down, but how I've kind of figured it out, all said and done, it's going to have around 14 or so inches of lift. So that's where we're at. We've got the portals, Elka stage 5s, and then still with the 36s. And the reason why I went with the 6-inch portal, frame tab stress was a bit of an issue for me. I thought about it a lot, but down the road, I can go to a 45% gear reduction, and then I can dump the 36s, put 42s on it, and it's still going to spin them like it's stock. So we're going to start putting shit together, and yeah, I'm happy.